Hey guys, Brent Hull Build Show, talking today about period revival. I'm going to be installing a period revival room. We're going to be looking at some of these moldings. I'm also going to show you a trick about the rule of threes and how to panel a wall with simple moldings today on the Build Show. The period revival era, okay, is, in my opinion, kind of the last good era of architecture and design, right? I believe pre-1940 houses are better than post-1940 houses. I have one of my videos on William Levitt and the rise of production builders. That all starts in the 50s and 60s, and I think the quality of design, the quality of moldings, the quality of those things that make a house great, the details are lost. What happens is because this is the last period, remember that there's a lot going on, right? World War I has just ended. World War II starts in 1938. We go to war, obviously, after Pearl Harbor. But look what happens with molding catalogs. So 1921, right? This is a beautiful, well-illustrated catalog that has beautiful moldings and renderings of how a room should look. There's these beautiful rendered houses of how a house should look. They even have this wonderful picture of two women discussing the home and how it should be, right? The magic of building here, right? A short 15 years later, 1936, kind of a junket, right? Kind of a simple catalog, simple pictures, renderings are gone, moldings shrink, okay? So really, during this period of time, the purity of this architecture is lost a little bit. I tell you that because as we look at moldings from this period, it's sometimes difficult to really know what we're looking at. For instance, this first picture is a pretty good Colonial Revival picture, right? That sconce in the wall with the two candlelight things, pretty typical. The 6-panel door, right? That is a good Colonial Revival. This next picture, though, is maybe Craftsman, maybe English, maybe a little bit something else. Right? It's not really pure architecture, right? It could fit in a number of different styles. But this last one maybe captures the best what this period revival era is supposed to be. Remember, period revival is a revival of these English, French, Mediterranean, Spanish styles, right? That are old world, classical. And if you look at what they've done here is they've done a simple, molding package, but they've paneled the walls. Now, they've paneled it with just a simple molding. And if you look at some of these other pictures from the catalogs, you see how they've used just a simple molding, oftentimes applied to the plaster, sometimes a plaster molding to create a sense of scale and a sense of beauty. Now, they are trying to recreate simply a paneled room, right? They're trying to create this look as if this room's been paneled when it's just a simple applied molding. So let's dig into this room. Let me show you some moldings, one from Kuchen, one from Windsor, working out a really good period revival room. So to get a good period revival molding, it has to be of a decent size. Sometimes moldings today can be, 2 and 3 inches wide. These are, that's 4.5. This one from Kuchen's 4.5, right? So they are an appropriate size. They're, 1.25 inches off the wall there. This one is maybe 1.5 inches, right? So they have a fairly thick sense, right? Most moldings in this period are all 3/4 inch, right? It's not until you get into the 50s and 60s that you have, 1/2 inch moldings, and even today when moldings get so small. I like both of these because they are kind of that classical architrave, kind of that 3-step thing that you would have seen in a Georgian or a Federal period. This one is kind of a transitional between a Georgian and a Federal style. So a lot of uses, whether it's, Colonial Revival, whether you just want something that is classically flared, right? It has good shape. It accentuates your eyes to the door. They're both, basically the same moldings. They both do the same thing. Just move this one out of the way. And we'll nail this one up over our door. 6/8 door. Put this on. And right now we've trimmed out our door. Now, here's where we're really going to get into the design of the room and paneling this room out, right? We've got the picture rail in this one, just like in the arts and crafts period, at 9 feet, right? We're assuming that we've got a 9-foot ceiling here. I'm just over, right, almost 9.5, almost 10 foot here. So I've got this square, I've got this space on this side of the door that I need to proportion out, that I need to scale. I'm going to apply panels, top and bottom, to this thing. What should they look like? How should it go together? I'm going to show you. All right, guys, so basically we have a 9 by 9 square, right? We can basically say, okay, here's my floor, right? I'll do a 1 inch to 1 foot scale. So, you know, there's my 9 foot there, right? My door is sitting about right here, okay? Let's just say that that door is there. How do we proportion this space and what do we make it look like? Now, I've said in my other video about the height of chair rails that I hate a chair rail when it gets to 3 foot. I think it looks messed up. It ruins the proportion of the room. So just like in those classical rooms, I'm going to imply a chair rail and a height there that's going to establish my proportion. Now, essentially, I'm going to have a lower panel down here, and I'm going to have 3 of them. Now, I don't know if you've heard of the rule of 3s, right? That if you have a block like this, right, that it is better to separate it into odd numbers than to even numbers. Now, why is that? Because an odd number allows one on either side and centers me. If this was let's just say I had a bigger room like this, okay? This same 9 by 9 space, kind of a small wall, let's just say it is a little bit bigger than it, and I wanted to panel this out, right? What I would do is I would have smaller panels over here, and I have a bigger panel in the middle, okay? I've split it into 5s now, right? And so I've got 5 panels, but that center panel is bigger, okay? So this again, that odd number spacing allows me to center, and then for even more hierarchy, I have widened that center panel so that it's much bigger. On this space, because I've got this thing scaled out, right? I know that 3 foot is right there. I'm gonna pretend, okay, my chair rail is right at about 30 inches, okay? Now, we're not gonna put a chair rail in here, and you'll see in these period revival things, you'll see a lower panel and an upper panel. The chair rail is implied, okay? Just like the other moldings in this room and a panel room are implied. But what that means is because my chair rail, the implied chair rail is at 30 inches, I'm actually gonna put my panel below that and above the base, okay? And then my upper panels, like we talked about when we talked about a paneled wall, are gonna be taller. Now, why do we do that, okay? We do that because it builds visual height, okay? That chair rail is supposed to punctuate the room. Those tall panels above give a room visual height. It will make this room feel taller than it is. And then you've got a small panel over top the door. It will match the height of these other panels, and you've kind of pulled this room together, right? So now, using simple moldings, we are implying proportions, we're implying this traditional scale, and that's what they were doing in that period revival era. Kind of a funky little deal, right? Where we're laying out moldings. Now, I've actually, you know, put 3 different types of moldings on here, okay? Now, I did that so you could kind of see how the shadow lines and everything else change as these moldings are on there. So, you know, I've got a molding that's, you know, 1.25 inches by 1 inch, you know, something that sticks out very far. I've got something that's 1/8 by 5/8 or 1/2 by 5/8. Depending on, you know, the shadow lines that you want, depending on kind of how much emphasis you want on this wall and these shadow lines, you can play around with different things. I put the biggest moldings in the middle, obviously to highlight that center section. What I've done here, realized, is that I've got an implied chair rail, right? I've got basically a pedestal and a column, right? I've got this classical layout, and you know, I'm 32 inches to the implied chair rail in kind of that middle area. I've got, you know, these panel molds and then going up to that 9-foot ceiling, almost as if this is a pedestal here, a column here, right? We're introducing and, you know, signaling proportions into this room so that these rooms can look better. So guys, period revival, right? This is a period revival room. We have dumbed down, right, or simplified the paneled wall system, but still introduced proper scale and proportions. If you have a space like this, remember, don't divide it into even numbers, divide it into odd numbers, right? That centers your eye, gives you a point of focus. You can also establish hierarchy by having that middle panel bigger, right? Remember that chair rail is implied, right? I've got it about 32 inches, but this is a real quick way, right, that was used in the period revival era to create this kind of a higher level room, right? It's a great way to get great bang for your buck. It's a very simple room. Hopefully that'll help you guys out as you do your period revival rooms. Hey, shout out to Kukin and Windsor. I'm using their moldings, I'm using their stuff. I designed their moldings, right? I really believe in it. They ship all across the country. It's a great way to introduce good design into your projects. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. A lot of behind the scene things we're doing there. Also, sign up for the newsletter. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.